Let eMarketer analyze your data. How come? Well, our custom reports marry original survey data with your company's proprietary data and perspective to create branded analytical reports for your marketing campaigns. Lead the narrative around key topics. Visit eMarketer.com/advertise to learn more.
So I think that models that can really think critically and do more like, advanced mathematics, for example, I think that could help spur agentic AI that can operate autonomously on behalf of humans in the background.
Hey gang, it's Thursday, September 26th. Grace, Jacob, and listeners, welcome to the Behind the Numbers Daily, an eMarketer podcast. I'm Marcus. Today I'm joined by two people. We start with one of our technology analysts based in California. We call him Jacob Bourne.
Hi, Marcus. Thanks for having me today.
Hey fella, yes indeed. Thanks for being here. We're also joined by one of our analysts who writes for our technology briefing, based in California as well. Her name is Grace Harmon.
Hi Marcus, it's nice to be here.
Hey, thank you for hanging out with me and Jacob for today's episode. What do we have in store for you? We're talking some AI, but first, fact of the day. What was the first city to reach a population of 1 million in the world? Ever? Guesses?
In the world?
1 million?
Yeah, think of a very popular city in history.
Rome?
Yes, bang. Good guess.
I was gonna say that.
He probably was. Rome in 133 BC, according to Encyclopedia Britannica, was the first to hit 1 million. London reached the mark 1,700 years later, in around 1801, according to the UK census, and 1 million people called New York City home from 1875. According to Boston University. As of 2016, there are over 500 cities in the world that have a population in excess of 1 million, according to the UN. The UK has one, bless our little heart, as London, of course. Nearly 2, but not quite. America has 9, and China has the most with over 100. So 1/5 of the cities with over 1 million people in China. Anyway, today's real topic. The push for a new AI device and AI models that can now reason. All right, folks, so let's talk about AI devices. So former Chief Design Officer at Apple, Johnny Ive, has confirmed that he's working with OpenAI CEO Sam Altman on an AI hardware project, writes Alex Kranz at The Verge. His team includes 10 folks, including Tang Tan and Evans Hankey, two key people who worked with Mr. Ive on the iPhone. Ms. Kranz notes that last year it was rumored to be inspired by touchscreen technology and the original iPhone, but few specifics have been nailed down, and Mr. Altman recently confirmed that it is not a phone that they are working on. Grace, I'll come to you first because you wrote about this for us. What's your take on this announcement that former Apple design whiz Mr. Ive is working on a new AI device with OpenAI?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of details out right now. We haven't seen, any design. There aren't any details about when it's going to be coming out. It just seems like something that is going to be exciting for people that are really Gen AI fanatics, are really daily active users of these platforms. I guess I would say early on that there is so much on-device AI on most smartphones right now, so it might not be something that is necessary for everyone.
Yeah, that was always been the question I've had is, do we need one? Because it feels as though, well, first of all, it feels like everyone who's tried has struggled. Other AI-centric devices, Jacob, they haven't exactly flown off the shelves, right?
They haven't. I mean, Humane's AI pin is a notable case that it actually did quite poorly. And I think, it's not surprising. I mean, device sales in recent years have ebbed and flowed. And I think, tech companies are really looking at AI as a means to boost device sales, and something new is what they're going for. And I think the fact that we haven't heard details is unsurprising, because what is it going to look like? What's the form factor here? And of course, they haven't figured it out because it's a really difficult thing. I mean, if they're trying to replace the smartphone, you really have to overcome the habituation of like billions of people in order to do that, because it's
Yeah.
everybody's go-to device we have in our pockets. It does everything we need to do. It's like a little computer you have on you. It's not conspicuous. And then, of course, there's a slew of wearables that some perform well, some perform, not well. And of course, all of them are getting AI enablement. So, and they want to come up with
Mhm.
something new. And I don't think that there's any silver bullet here. And I think probably
Yeah.
the best path forward is for them to create something that complements the smartphone instead of replaces it, kind of part of an overall ever expanding ecosystem of AI enabled devices. But still, as Grace pointed out, that's not easy either, because then are you just duplicating what your smartphone can already do with another device? And do people really want to spend money on that? So I think this isn't going to be an uphill battle for them. And really,
Right.
I think the marketing as well as some really exciting features are really what's needed for it to be successful.
On the design side too, if they're wanting this to be similar to a phone, just in terms of design, it can't be as big as a phone. I guess I'd start with that. There are some things there where if it is the size of your iPhone, no one's going to want to carry that around.
Mm-hmm.
And the price needs to be lower than an iPhone is going to be, because it doesn't have everything that an iPhone can do.
Right. Yeah. And you have other AI powered smart glasses that are also kind of emerging that, and maybe that's what they're going to develop is, an AI powered smart glass.
Yeah, so let me just go through a few of the devices. So you mentioned Humane's wearable AI pin, and there was a Verge article. I think, Grace, you might have noted this, that they were saying since the AI pin's release in April, about 1/3 of all units have sold have been returned. So that's not going great. There's the Rabbit device, little kind of box device, which was written off as a gimmick by Wired, The Verge, CNET, and others. Then you come to smart glasses. So you've got Snapchat. They're trying to crack the smart glasses code, have done for a while. They have a new proprietary OS to power its 5th generation of AR spectacles. Amazon's Echo Frames received little attention. But then you come to Ray-Ban, the Ray-Ban Meta Smart glasses. Their first generation sold only 300,000 pairs in 18 months, and less than 10% of purchases were still being actively used 2 years later. But we'll see for the next version. I mean, are they the company? Because it seems like they might be onto something. There's been a bit of buzz about them recently with their latest or the next generation of those glasses.
Meta, I don't think released official numbers about the second iteration of the smart glasses, but they said it performed better than the first lineup. So
Yeah.
I think what's great about the Meta Ray-Bans is that they're priced at $299, $300. I think that's relatively a good target price point for something that's really new to consumers, that they're not, someone might not be sure how much they're going to use it or not. So it's a bit of a purchase risk. So I think that's one good thing. I think the other huge selling point is that they're stylish, which is something that many of the other smart glasses out there are not. And so that's another big thing with anything that's not in your pocket, is it has to look good, whether it's on your wrists or on your ears or on your face. And so that's another thing.
I also don't know that there's a winning formula for use cases. If we're looking at what these guys are planning, it would have kind of one single purpose. And just because it only has one single purpose doesn't mean it won't do well. Because, again, coming back to the Humane AI pin, one of the biggest issues was just the hardware. It overheats. It gave buggy responses. There's some other products in the market right now that also have single use cases like the Note pin, and I don't think there's any sales figures on that at this point, but what it can do is record and transcribe. That is it.
Right. And people are pointing out that, smartphones can do that too. So why would you need
exactly.
that?
There's free apps.
Yeah. Before the form factor gets settled upon, folks might want to figure out what we're going to use this dedicated AI device for. And again, is there, to use your word, Grace, is there a use case people need help with? In terms of price, there is one final device I'll mention, the $99 AI Friend. It's kind of an Apple AirTag shaped device that folks wear around their neck, like a necklace, is powered by Anthropic's Claude 3.5 LLM.
I think one final thing is just looking at Apple's historical success with the iPhone. And it targeted a number of things, providing, privacy features, a premium product that is part of a greater ecosystem that, basically got a huge following of dedicated users. And I think that even if, this IVE Altman device isn't something that is completely novel, if it can provide, great privacy and great interoperability, those factors could be enough to maybe get some traction.
Yeah.
I would have, I guess, one last thing to say about that, which is I think that the price is going to be very tricky because if it's too high, people are not going to want it. I mean, new phones, I'm in need of a new iPhone right now, and they're really expensive. If it's too low, it's going to be really problematic for them because powering ChatGPT is really expensive.
Yeah.
I think it was SemiAnalysis found that it's potentially up to $690,000 per day just to operate ChatGPT. And if they're expanding it to even more platforms, that's, even more operating costs. They have to find the right balance. I don't know exactly what that would be, but I think that might be a make or break.
Yeah, I agree with that, Grace. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see Altman want to take another loss leader approach, just like with ChatGPT, where it was free initially. Of course, these won't be free, but they might be priced at a loss initially to get people to buy it. And then that could change with future generations.
Yeah.
I think a subscription model is pretty likely.
Let's move from the hardware to the technology that's going to be powering whatever device comes out of these efforts. OpenAI just released O1 as a preview of its first model with reasoning abilities, writes Kylie Robinson of The Verge. The Strawberry model, as it's known, is better at writing code and solving multi-step problems than previous ones because it's using a think, then answer approach. Ms. Robinson explains that OpenAI taught previous GPT models to mimic patterns from its training data, but with O1, it trained the model to solve problems on its own using a technique known as reinforcement learning, teaching the system through rewards and penalties. It then uses a chain of thought to process queries, similarly to how humans process problems by going through them step by step, she notes. Jacob, how does an AI model with reasoning abilities change things?
Yeah, well, first we need to see how well this one performs in the wild when it's fully released. So that remains to be seen. But actual reasoning skills, I think, could change everything, really. So far, we've seen impressive AI models, but really they're creative and very linguistically skilled, but they've been shown to be not great at math, for example, not great at critical thinking and multi-step reasoning. And I think those lack of critical thinking abilities really makes them more prone to hallucinations, as well as kind of limiting the kind of use cases you can get out of them as well. So I think that models that can really think critically and do more like, advanced mathematics, for example, I think that could help spur agentic AI that can operate autonomously on behalf of humans in the background. We might see that become more of a realistic technology. And ultimately, I think critically thinking AI would definitely lay the foundation for artificial general intelligence.
I'm wondering how will kind of the showing its workings thing change things, because OpenAI said they've designed the interface to show the reasoning steps as the model thinks. However, it doesn't really show its workings, does it? Because the full detailed chain of thought that it uses to work something out, it is, by and large, hidden from folks. Otherwise, competitors would be able to steal their secret sauce.
Right. And what's interesting is OpenAI was kind of threatening users who are trying to figure it out. In other words, they are being very protective about attempts to jailbreak it to find out how it works, which is unsurprising for OpenAI. They've been pretty tight-lipped about their models. It also could be in part that, just like with all advanced AI models, they don't fully know how it works yet. You can't fully get that pathway between input and output. There's like this black box element to it.
Yeah, Grace, it's interesting because I'd never really, we've been so conditioned to type something into whatever and get an instant response. And it wasn't until I was reading an article by Matteo Wong of The Atlantic, basically saying, well, how powerful can LLMs, large language models, be when you give them time to quote unquote think? And this model O1 is given a limited amount of time to process queries. So it can say, I'm running out of time, let me just get you an answer. However, Matteo Wong of The Atlantic was pointing out that the more time O1 was given to respond to a question, the better it performed. And we don't always need answers immediately. We've just become accustomed to that. But I'm wondering what it's going to look like when folks start to realize that they can sacrifice speed for quality and accuracy.
I think that's a game changer. There is the degree there, I guess, with how users will interact with it, that no one's very patient anymore with technology. I'm not. If Google search is taking too long, I will just in my head think that something's broken and reload the page. I don't wait that long.
Yep.
So I think that this is a game changer in terms of users are being posed with exactly the proposal you gave, which is, are you willing to wait longer for a better response? And I think that also kind of highlights some of the issues that are maybe existing with ChatGPT, which is prone to hallucinations. There's been some points where critics or again users were really pointing out some of the very, very inaccurate, sometimes dangerous outputs it was giving. So yeah, I think OpenAI is posing the question, just would you wait longer? And I think some people maybe not. Maybe they're just not patient enough. I know that, I think it's about a 20 to 30 second response time. That's not that long, but it might be too long for some people.
Yeah.
I think that this puts pressure on other companies to put out reasoning models more quickly as well, because it's just kind of becoming that as we focus more and more on AI, as AI adoption is increasing at businesses, that chatbots as the beginning level might not be enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also interesting because it can ask for some direction. At the beginning of the chain of thought, it may say, I could do this or that. What should I do? And so the human in the situation could help guide the AI to the answer that it wants. The problem here, though, is taking more time to answer means more power, which means more cost. And Mr. Wong of The Atlantic was noting that the O1 preview outputs is roughly 4 times more expensive than for GPT-4o, raising the stakes of how soon Gen AI can be profitable, if ever.
Yeah, and I think this, the speed is really important here, and part of that cutting the power and the costs on the back end really is about chips. NVIDIA and AMD and the other chip makers helping to get that cost down.
Yeah.
But as far as just the speed on the end, from the end user's perspective, it depends on if the output is helping the user save time. Well, then it's worth the wait. If 20 minutes saves you an hour, well, then, yeah, you're going to wait that 20 minutes, of course.
Let me throw this at you both real quick before we move to our last question, which is in this Atlantic article I was reading, it was basically saying it didn't make this leap, but I kind of did, which is that describing these new models as having human characteristics might not be the best marketing play for consumers. Because in the piece, it was saying OpenAI said its model uses a chain of thought. AI search startup Perplexity says its product understands you. Anthropic has described its leading model, Claude, as having character and a mind, and Google says its AI can reason. People are already becoming increasingly more nervous about AI, and I don't think humanizing it is going to alleviate those concerns. Pew Research found from 2021 to 2023, the share of folks who said that they were more concerned than excited about AI in daily life went from 37 to 52%. Those more excited than concerned fell from 18 to 10. So what was your take on them trying to humanize these models to make them feel more user-friendly, gentler?
I think that the 5 models or 5 steps that OpenAI has laid out, chatbots, reasoners, agents, innovators, organizations, it can read as the steps to AGI. It also can read as the roadmap to developing AI that can completely replace a human worker. That last step is like an organizer is AI that can do the work and tasks of an entire organization. So I think it depends on maybe your pessimism, maybe your concerns, but I think that it can be viewed as 2 different roadmaps.
Let's end the episode by talking about another AI company which has just been announced. Ilya Sutskever's AI startup, which raised over $1 billion. Dan Primack and Ina Fried of Axios were writing an article about this, noting that the monster investment in the new company called Safe Superintelligence, or SSI, reflects the pedigree of the company's co-founders, who include former OpenAI chief scientist Ilya Sutskever, fellow OpenAI vet Daniel Levy, and former Apple AI chief Daniel Gross. The new company says our singular focus means no distraction by management overhead or product cycles, and our business model means safety, security, and progress are all insulated from short-term commercial pressures. Mr. Sutskever had concerns over the pace of development at OpenAI when he was on their board. Grace, I'll go to you first for this one. How realistic is Safe Superintelligence, which is the name of the company, but also what they're trying to do?
I think part of this endeavor is that you are trying to get AI that understands the consequences of its own actions to create really, really, really safe AI. And I don't know if our current understanding and the current limitations of AI are there to get very quickly. But this is a really important thing to focus on. I think that reflects, like you said, both the pedigree and the positive notoriety of the founders, and also the growing concerns that everyone has about safe AI. So I would say in some ways it is an insurmountable endeavor to guarantee quickly, but if the company keeps working at it and if investors are patient, it seems like something really important.
Yeah, certainly important. I mean, I think the really interesting thing here is you have a combination of two things that are both nowhere near existing. The first thing is obviously a superintelligence. Even artificial general intelligence, which is not quite the same thing, is a ways away. And the second thing is this notion that people could have a control over superintelligence and trust it, when really the term superintelligence implies that it's smarter than the smartest humans, which seems like a contradiction then to say that a human could control something that's far smarter than it. So I think the needle that they're trying to thread here is to say that, okay, we can build a super intelligence that's benign. In other words, it can outsmart us, but it's not going to because it doesn't want to, because we built it that way. It's not inclined to do anything unsafe. And I think, how could you possibly guarantee that is the question. And I think that's really the ultimate goal of this initiative. And I think it's important, not because either of these things, a superintelligence or even a safe one, is imminent, but because tech companies are pouring billions of dollars into trying to create a superintelligence. And there's concern that there's a disproportionate or a lack of proportionate investment in the safety aspect of it. And so even if a superintelligent AI isn't possible, I think what we can be sure of is that AI is going to continue to get more advanced. And as it gets more advanced, then the safety concerns increase. And so that you really want to see a proportionate amount of safety research to match the amount of investment that's going on in AI advancement. And I think this initiative kind of is a step in that direction.
And it doesn't even need to get to super intelligence for it to be dangerous, right? I mean, this initiative, this company appears well-intentioned, but Kelsey Piper of Vox was saying that it's the intelligence part that's the double-edged sword. Technology is rarely bad. It's just that it can be used for good or bad. And Sigal Samuel of Vox noting that OpenAI O1 is the first model to score medium risk in its capabilities with chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons, meaning while it's not capable enough to walk a complete beginner through developing a deadly pathogen, the evaluators found that it can help experts with the operational planning of reproducing a known biological threat.
Yeah.
I'd also say outside of, maybe ethical concerns, we're also seeing the stakes for bad acting AI grow. We've spoken before about the proposed bill in California. There's the AI Act in EU. The actual concrete stakes for having AI that is not safe are growing. So it's not just, again, an ethical benefit for focusing on things like, say, superintelligence. There's now a financial benefit. There's now, that could be something that isn't maybe a return on investment for investors, but it protects their investment.
Yeah. And going back to this idea of agentic AI agents, again, they don't have to be super intelligent if they're enabled, if they're built in a way that they can take action, like even if it's booking a flight online or doing something else in the background without a person actually clicking a button and telling it to do that, then that creates a whole host of safety risks in and of itself.
All right, folks. Well, that's where we have to leave today's episode. But thank you so much for hanging out with me for the conversation. Thank you to Grace.
Thank you, Marcus. Jacob, it was nice to be here.
Thank you to Jacob.
Pleasure, Grace. Pleasure, Marcus. Thanks for having me.
Yes, indeed. Thank you to Victoria. She edits the show. Stuart runs the team. Sophie does our social media. Thanks to everyone for listening in. We hope to see you tomorrow for the Behind the Numbers Weekly Listen. That's an eMarketer video podcast. You can watch that on YouTube or Spotify now if you would like, or of course you can just listen to it the usual way.